Alright, so we're going to do a video on streamers. We're going to tie a circus peanut. We're going to talk a little bit about variations of flies you can tie. There's a couple of ways to do this, but the most important thing is we want to really talk about the articulation of using two hooks. It really sets off the fly pattern. Not only does it make it longer, but it creates a movement in the fly that is just absolutely sick in the water. Russ Madden came up with this pattern in Michigan, and now it's just gone bonkers. It's just an overgrown woolly booger tied with schlappen, silly legs, chenille, and marabou, some kind of lead eye, no weight in the fly. And you can tie several ways. You can tie it several ways. What I have found is olive and yellow have been really two hot colors for me as far as moving fish. I'm still learning about it, but it's a process, and that's what's fun about it. So we're going to talk a little bit about material and what's kind of the best material versus some of the material that you would try to use to substitute. One thing I will emphasize on is get the best material you can to tie these flies. They'll turn out a lot better. And the most important thing would be schlappen. You do not want to use a saddle hackle or a schlappen that doesn't look webby. I'll give you an example. This is good schlappen right here. This is from Hairline. It's real webby. And this is some schlappen you can buy from someone else. But what you're trying to look for is you don't want it to look like barbed hackle like you could use for a woolly booger. You want really webby stuff. When you lay the fly down, or not the fly, but when you lay the hackle down, you want it to kind of lay into the body of the fly. It's almost like the chenille can grab it, and it just really looks good. It's a great profile, and it kind of separates the fly, like I said. So most of these are tied. You can tie them on a down eye, but a lot of them are tied on a 93-95 Tiemco. It's a straight eye streamer. I like using the size 4. You can run a 6 off the back, or you can run a 4, depending on if you want your fly to be long. The first thing I want to talk about is eyes. The eyes that I like definitely would be an eye that has a small post in the center, so you can really cinch that down and not have a lot of build. It'll secure better on the hook shank. So we'll go ahead and tie one of those in. Another one you can find it's from Spear River. It's called eyeballs. It's what everybody's tying their sculpins on, and it's a pretty good eye. I'm just a big fan of these because they seem to be a little heavier and they stick out a little further. So when you're building a body with schlappen and chenille, it can sure take a fly up real quick if you don't have a big enough eye. So, and another thing is, if you wanted to, I like to prep my hooks. I've got several over here tied, and what I like to do is try to tie 6 or 7 at a time. You can see that on this side over here, I've attached the hooks already to it. That's kind of how I like to do it. I like to tie them the back hook first, and then I start just tying the mono in and getting it ready for the last stage of the fly. And you can have some eyes laying over here ready to go too. That'll kind of speed up your tying as far as getting these commercially tied or trying to speed tie several. I've been working on a box over here, and it's still in the process of it. But this yellow and orange tip, it's probably one of the best producers on the river, guaranteed. I hate to share that with you, but I'm going to because I want you guys to catch big fish too. Those are dynamite. This is another little variation of the circus peanut. It's just palmered rabbit going up the body, but it's kind of a faster tie, and it's a little different in the water. But you can tell it's the same kind of thing. I put a little chenille head on it, put some silly legs on the outside. I actually tie some in the tail. Instead of using flash on each side of the hook, I'll tie in some legs, kind of gives it more action. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and tie this fly. This fly will take 210. That's what we're going to tie. I'd like to tie with 210 Danville. I'm going to start a little thread here just to build it so I can get some glue on it. The eyes are tied on the top right now. We're going to rotate them over. And we're going to put a little bit of hard as nails. That seems to really hold these eyes in. But another key is every time you tie, you want to really cinch them down. You do a couple of wraps and you just kind of pull tight, a couple of wraps. Now that I've got that kind of secured, I'm going to rotate those over. Make sure they're centered and straight. I'm going to add some more of this on the bottom, or on the top now, but on the bottom of the eye. That's where a lot of people fall short, is they don't put enough glue and they don't tie enough wraps to really try to cinch it down to keep it from shifting. But that hard as nails, that's really good stuff. Once I kind of figure eight these, I'm going to go ahead and post them kind of like you would do a parachute on a dry fly. This kind of cinches all that thread in and keeps it really tight. I'm going to do a couple wraps right in front and back of it just to lock it in. And once you've done this part, you're ready to whip this off and just kind of let that dry. You can even actually add a little bit more hard as nails if you want to. So we'll let that dry, and we'll take one that is already dry and we'll put it in the vise here. Or actually, let's not do that. Let's tie the back end of one of these real quick. So I'm going to take a smaller thread because I don't really need 210. I'm not cinching anything really down. This is just kind of like a woolly booger with some silly legs. I'm going to get the thread started in the front. I'm just going to wind kind of to the bend. I'm leaving a little space because I like to measure my marabou. And I'm just using strung marabou. And the thing about any of this marabou is you've got to really weave through it. Don't accept a bad piece, just find a good piece. A lot of this marabou you will find you'll be throwing in the trash or tying it for something else that's real small. If the tail looks kind of thin, you can actually add another one if you want, but I like to go ahead and measure this a little longer. I like to make the cut straight, and then I like to lay it down and then wind it back like this. It just kind of cleans that all up. To me, that's a little short of a tail as far as how much body I want in the fly, so I'm going to add another one. So we're going to look for another piece. One thing I will talk about is there's a little bitty stem that goes up this marabou, and it has a lot of memory in it. If you blow it, it's got a little memory in it. So I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to go ahead and measure this again. I'm going to tie it right in front of the last one. Okay. Now that I have that tail looking full, I'm going to go ahead and grab some chenille. This is the chenille you can get off of a card. It's just tinsel chenille. But I really like eye chenille from Hairline. I'll show you what that looks like. It's a little fuller. And it's a little better. But there's some white and some black, and this is really good stuff. But I don't have any olive in it, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. I peeled a little off, and I'm just going to tie in the core now. Wind that to the bend. Come up about 3/4 of the hook shank. I'm going to go ahead and wind that down. And we're going to tie that off on the top. Kind of get in the habit of doing that, and you'll find yourself having a lot better looking flies because you can kind of pay attention to detail. It's not in your way.